Carlos, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. How are you, Steve?
You know, I'm good. It's bright and early on Thursday, which means I get to take a break soon. You know, today's Thursday, and we got Friday, and then 2 days of rest.
You get to take a break? How's that work? You're a business owner. I've been in business for 17 years, and I have yet to figure out a day when I can actually take a break.
Well, it's really easy when you just ignore all of your customers for 2 days and just piss everybody off.
See, I don't like, making my customers mad. They keep food on my table. They keep the lights on. They let me buy fun computer gear that lets me have a chat with you that gets recorded, and then, people start poking at me.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I get it. I mean, when I've got happy customers, I get to buy toys. I've got this toy here. I just bought this. I'm still trying to figure out how to use this for my
nice gimbal
for my recordings. I think I'm gonna exchange it. This is the Zhiyun, the Weeble S. I think I'm gonna exchange this for the DJI Ronin SC.
I knew you were gonna say DJI. You know what? I've played with both. The DJI is so nice.
Yeah, and the thing is, this one, it just feels, some things about it feel a little bit cheaper to me. And
I mean, don't get it twisted. They're both made in the same plant in Shenzhen, right?
Probably, you're not wrong.
If you open them, you're going to get corona.
Oh,
the air inside is tainted with corona.
Oh, absolutely. But so I get it. Happy clients means more toys. So I'm with you. I got jokes. You know that. I got jokes
all day.
So here, I need to grab a sip here.
Speaking of sips, this is something that came up before we started to record, and I said, "No, we got to have this conversation."
Yeah. What are you drinking?
So this is iced coffee. This is cold brew. I make my own cold brew with a little bit of milk in it, and life is good. But I said, I'm going to sip on some of this Cavassier if you don't mind. And Steve said, "Are you day drinking?"
Yeah, what's Cavassier? I don't.
You don't know.
That sounds like those long sausages that you get in Germany.
Well, in Germany, I don't know what it would be called, but I think you're thinking about kielbasa. Kielbasa, I think, is Polish, if I remember right.
Whatever. They all look the same to me. I don't think I did not mean that to actually be racist to all of the Polish and German people watching. We're off to a great start.
Yikes. So Cavassier is a brand of cognac. And I was making a callback.
I'm sorry. I think you pronounced that incorrectly. It's cognac. Okay? It's cognac.
Okay. So I was making a callback to a movie that I would have thought you would have had near and dear to your heart, being in the IT world, Office Space.
I love that movie.
And you don't make the callback to some Cavassier?
I don't remember it.
Oh man,
I don't remember that scene.
Well, there's a. It's part of the soundtrack, I should say. It's not...
Oh, okay. So the soundtrack, when I'm watching movies, for whatever reason, like I listen to the soundtrack, and when I hear the song, I can typically say, "Oh, that's the song from whatever," but I typically don't listen to the words of the soundtrack. I suck at that when it comes to movies. But let me tell you, man, there are so many awesome scenes from that movie. Like my wife and I, we just quote that movie to each other all day. It's great.
Oh man. So
sipping on some Cavassier.
It's part of the sound. It's in the soundtrack. One of the, I don't remember the exact name of the song, but sipping on Cavassier. Never mind. We're gonna go out and let's get let's get a printer and beat it up, and
So you spell that kind of like Kielbasier?
What, Cavassier or cognac?
Kielbasier?
Kielbasier,
yes. So Carlos, your name is confusing for me because I feel like you've got two different last names.
I have four. Well, I really do have two different last names. But I have like 4
Are
different
these
names.
are these I mean, obviously they're not secrets, but are these like spy names? Do you have
No,
a different name for each country?
I'm a foreigner. I know my accent doesn't give it away much. You have to listen a bit before you go, he's got kind of a tinge of an accent. And
you're Canadian, right?
Yeah. And where I'm from, you take your father's last name and your mother's last name. You don't just take your father's last name. And women don't change their name when they get married. They don't change their name. So the last name that Felix, is my dad's last name. Ortiz is my mom's last name. So that's how you end up with 2 last names in Puerto Rico. Everybody has 2 last names.
That's really cool. Now, what if you're like me and you're like, I don't know my dad?
Well, then you just have 1 last name. It's okay.
And then you're a loser in Puerto Rico?
No. They just think you're a gringo. Look at him, he gringo. He thinks he's better than us because he only has 1 last name.
I don't know what a gringo is, but okay.
You don't know what a gringo is? Come on.
I really don't, man. I'm not. I'm very sheltered. Okay, I'm an only child. I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland, a very white city. I think there was like 1 black kid in the whole school. Like I don't like our gang. Like, you gotta be careful because the streets of Brunswick are dangerous. They got kids riding around on their scooters and they'll bust a cap in your ass with their super soakers. Okay, like that's what I grew up in, man. Like, you gotta watch out for that Brunswick City street gang, man.
Well, it's like the Sharks and the Jets.
So yeah, I'm completely sheltered to all of it. I love learning about other cultures. I just find it all so fascinating. So yeah.
So how did we end up here? I hadn't been exposed to something.
Welcome to my podcast, Carlos. This is the mind of Steve. All right, this is what ADD does to you when you're not.
Gringo! You don't know what a gringo is. A gringo is Spanish slang for an American.
Oh,
it isn't quite so. It isn't quite so much as calling someone, one of those words.
Oh yeah,
there are a few words to. Like
the words you're not supposed to use about other cultures.
Yeah, I mean, that's just rude and insensitive and wrong and
exactly
bad in all sorts of ways. But it's not quite that. But it's certainly not the nicest thing to say about someone, right? They're just although you can use it in a nice context.
That's fair. So I guess we should talk about something serious before we start losing people. So Carlos, you have an MSP.
I do.
You are in beautiful, sunny Indiana.
That has absolutely no sun today, correct?
Yeah, it's okay. Ohio, it's a high of, 40 something. It was supposed to be 60s all week, except for one day.
I'm looking at my Apple Watch right now. It's saying it's 44 outside, and we're supposed to get to 58. So maybe, just maybe, we'll see some sun today.
Yeah, it was supposed to get 60s all week, and instead it's been like 40s. Today it'll get up to 63 with rain. It'll rain all afternoon. So we just can't win here. We got those April showers going full force right now.
But you have Columbus.
I've only been there like a handful of times, so I don't really know what's so great about it. I know you go there every year.
I go there at least twice a year every year. At least. Sometimes more.
You go, so why don't you fill people in on, so you've got an MSP, but let's go with the
MSP route.
Yeah, so you've got your MSP, you've got a boatload of clients. I know that, so here's the interesting thing about Carlos, guys, is Carlos is afraid of you guys, okay? Carlos he actually shakes when he thinks of competitors. So Carlos, Carlos is the kind of guy, he's not going to give away his secret sauce.
No, I'm not going to give away my secret sauce. I'm not afraid of competitors. I love competitors. You know what competitors are? They're fresh meat.
So, and that's fair. Carlos, you operate a really neat way, because you've got a neat past, and I think your neat past has kind of given you a competitive advantage to how you operate, how you run your business. So
that's fair.
I don't, before you ran an MSP, you were military.
Well, there was a step in between, right?
Okay.
I had a straight civilian job, if you will. The way it worked out was I went out of high school into the military. Could have gone into college, backstory, whatever. But I was basically sick and tired of school, and I was sick and tired of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Fort Lauderdale sucks. The folks at who is it? The Tech Nibble. Hey, Bryce. I know you love Fort Lauderdale, but Fort Lauderdale sucks. Dave, I know you love Fort Lauderdale, but Lauderdale sucks. And my family lives down there.
Dave's in Miami. Dave's in Miami, not Fort Lauderdale.
No, he's not in Miami. He's in Fort Lauderdale. He's in Hollywood. Hollywood? No.
He's in Hollywood, which I guess I consider Hollywood to be Miami, because
No, that's Broward County, man. That's hard, Fort Lauderdale.
Oh.
Anyhow,
okay.
I joined the military, and I did a lot of IT work in the military. I did a lot of other stuff, but my primary job was on the IT side. Before I became a grunt, which is a different story. And as it happens, I had an idiot for a boss, and I mean a idiot. Bring Carlos Mencia into the room. And when it came time to get out, I decided that I would never, ever work for somebody like that again, number one. And number two, that I would never be at someone else's mercy anymore. Because that guy, dumb as he was, had me at his mercy. If he wrote me up, he wrote me up. It didn't matter whether his write-ups were legitimate or not. In the military, that does, suck it up, buttercup. So, and to be clear, for those that aren't aware of how the world works, Puerto Rico is part of the United States. We're not a state. We are a territory that's really managed more like a colony, but we're part of the United States. So when I say I joined the military, I mean the United States Army, the United States military, not the Puerto Rico Army, right? Because there isn't one. We have a National Guard that is part of the United States National Defense System. So when I got out, I interviewed at a bunch of places, and at least back then, the question of the day was during interviews was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know if it's still, because I haven't done an interview like that in forever and a day. And Steve knows me, so he won't find this surprising, but you, dear watcher, listener, may not know me and probably don't know me. And so I'm pretty straightforward about things. Call spade a spade, and if it blows up in my face, so be it. I'd rather tell you what I think and tell you the truth than to try to sugarcoat it, and then you get the wrong idea. And
that's fair. I think some people appreciate that.
Some people do, some people don't. And I found that out when I was interviewing. So when the inevitable question of, what do you see yourself in 5 years comes up, my answer struck a lot of people very hard. My answer was, in 5 years, I'm going to be in your position. They would go, what? Yeah, in 5 years, I'm going to own a piece of this. Either I'm going to own a piece of this, or I'm going to bounce. I'm out. And I'm going to start my own thing. And I'm going to do whatever I need to do to survive. Because I'm not going to be at someone else's mercy anymore. Surprisingly to me, that wasn't received as well as I had thought would be. Frankness was not received as well as I had thought, and probably out of maybe 40 or 50 interviews, I got maybe 15 callbacks.
Oh wow!
Which I consider that to be a very low callback number. I'm told that that's good, but I consider that bad. I thought I would be hitting 90+%. And inevitably the answer was, well, you come in kind of strong. Like, what did? Okay, whatever.
What way would you rather me be weak? Like,
exactly. Would you rather me be weak? Would you rather me be meek? No, thanks. That's just not me. And eventually narrowed down my options, and out of the stack of offers, I chose one, and I went to work for them. It happens that my wife also went to work for them. My wife is also in the tech field, was also in the tech field in the military. And they needed some more help. And I said, well, my wife, and everybody props their wife up, right? I mean, if you're not propping your wife up, you're an ass. Mm-hmm. Forgive the language. Let's say you're a jerk.
No, I think you're an ass is fair. That's fair.
Because, your wife is supposed to be your partner in life, or your husband, or your whatever you want to call it. I'm not here to judge you. And they said, well, okay, we'll interview her. And they interviewed her, and was like, wow, yeah, she actually does have chops. Come on to work here. Fast forward 4 years and 9 months, I believe. The things we talked about during the interview hadn't been mentioned again.
Oh, So
I decided
you want to have some ownership, like you had initially indicated. Like, oh yeah, he was serious.
Well, so it caught my boss and part owner of the company a little bit by surprise, but not terribly by surprise. He was having some issues with his business partner, and they were in disputes and whatnot. And I said, oh, by the way, remember interview, 4.5, 5 years ago, almost, we talked about this. Now, whether you remember it or not, it's not my problem, but I remember talking about it because I talked about it with everybody. And don't forget that this is my stipulation. And, he said, what? I remember, but really now? Because he's having problems with his other business partner, and things are not great. Business is good, but, fighting in the ownership is never fun.
No, it really isn't.
So it happens that he settled that with, he ended up buying the other business partner out about a month before my deadline. And he offered my wife and I both a piece of the action. We took it, we ran with it. We did the normal, we went from working, 50 hours a week, which was pretty normal back then, to working 100 hours a week. Because once you're an owner, guess what? It's on you to make this thing work. After a while, he didn't want to do the business ownership thing anymore. He sold us the remainder of the business. And here we are, right? So that evolved into what we are today. But I had an IT job in the civilian world for a bit before I worked for myself, number one, and number two, before we evolved the company into an MSP. We evolved the company into an MSP probably in 2007. We didn't call it an MSP back then, but it's what we were doing.
Right. Back then, you were just an IT consulting company, right?
Yeah, we were an IT support company. We're a consultant, but we were offering the MSP things to clients because we saw the value of lowering their bills. I know that sounds counterintuitive. Lower how much you take in. Mm-hmm. But lowering the bills also meant steady income for us. And I would take steady income over, the roller coaster of high income, low income, depending on what problems crop up on any given day or week or month. I would much rather just kind of flatten it out. Like right now, we're trying to flatten that curve of COVID. That's what we did back in 2007. We started moving towards flattening the curve of our income. Not flatten it. We were, ideally curving it up a little bit for us by adding more clientele, but it also meant we had to get smart about what we were doing. We had to automate a lot of things. And, the drill is, if you're an MSP, your focus should be on automating everything. Mm-hmm. You should be blind. You should know how things work, but you shouldn't know that one of your scripts or one of your alerts or monitors caught a problem on Steve's computer and fixed it. Bam, done. You should be oblivious to that fact. Your system should document that. Hey, I noticed.
Just take care of it for you.
Exactly. It should document it, but it should also just take care of it for you. You should have built the automation to handle that. Because if you do that, then you're able to grow the business without growing the amount of work that you have to do in order to grow the business, right?
Amen to that.
So back then we didn't have these fancy RMMs and whatnot. So let me tell you, we had to conjure up our own ways. And at the time, let me tell you, it was interesting. What I did was, my secret sauce back then, if you will, that I don't care about anymore because it's not what I do anymore, was I set up a VPN to every single client. And I would put a virtual machine in my office that was part of the domain of every single client that would ride over that VPN. And then I would automate all that stuff on my virtual machine, right? I would have my own stack of things to do. And because I'm in the domain, then I'm able to run as administrator across the VPN, right? And that's how we started. Later on, we found this wonderful thing called, what was it called? Hound Dog.
Ooh, Hound Dog. Now we're talking.
Right. Let me see. Hound Dog RMM. It became what I believe is now Ninja. I don't know.
It became GFI Max.
Exactly. It became GFI Max, and then that became
Logic
something
now.
else. Okay.
Logic Now, and then now it's SolarWinds MSP RMM.
Perfect. See, you know this history. I don't.
Oh, well, you know me. I switch every 3 to 6 months, man.
Exactly.
Not anymore.
What are you on today?
Today I am on SolarWinds MSP RMM.
And you've been on that for about 2 years or 3 years now, right?
No. So I was on Kaseya for 2 years, and I just wasn't feeling it. And so about 7-ish, I don't know, man. I think I tell people like 6, 7, 8-ish months ago is when I decided to make the switch. And I actually did a lot of research before just kind of jumping, because that's what I used to do, man. I used to jump from platform to platform because, back, especially when I started this company, I was looking for something that was like just going to do it all for me. I was expecting to buy an RMM and just everything's magically set up. And that
God, I wish.
And I had to learn the really, really hard way that is just not how it's done. It is on you to have to go in and build out automation scripts and if then statements and all that stuff. Even build out the monitors. Like it wouldn't even tell you when things are wrong until you configured it, or it would be configured to tell you every little thing that's happening. It's either
the minutia. You don't care about the minutia. You care about the real things,
Right. Like, oh yeah, okay, so this service stopped and restarted again. Oh, but it's supposed to. Leave me alone. Like,
so we jumped onto we did the hound dog thing. Let me back into this. As a business, as a human being, I like building relationships with people. There are people I like, and I like a lot of people, but there are people that I don't like, right? And if I don't like you, just don't build a relationship with you. Even if you're going to bring money into my pocket, I don't care. I'm not going to build a relationship with you. And as a matter of fact, I won't even bother trying to get your money because it's too much work. In the prior version of this eventual company, part of what we did was we had standing contracts to show up at client sites for X number of hours per week, right? Again, flattening the curve. That's something that was started before I even started that, working for that company. They had these agreements where, you needed an IT department and you didn't want to afford an IT department. So we'd send out people that were knowledgeable to your business and so on and so forth. In that process, one of our clients at the time, saw the benefit of it, had us doing a lot, but it ended up being that we were there 5 days a week for 4 hours a day, and that gets pricey, right? So they hired somebody. I'd seen this before, and inevitably, it always ended up blowing up in their face, and then they'd come back. In this case, it didn't, right? They hired a very talented man who I built a friendship with. And right around the time, especially with someone that's talented, that actually knows what they're doing and whatnot. And right around the time when we took part ownership of the then company, this gentleman also left that place of employment to start his own company like ours. And we're friends. We're very good friends to this day. So he said, "Hey, Carlos, this is what I'm going to do. They don't know yet, but this is what I'm going to do. And you have the right ideas here. Do you mind, if we help each other out?" Right? Not at all. Look, first of all, you're a friend. Even if you were going hard up against my own clientele, you're a friend. I'll compete with you all day. But we're friends, so we shouldn't have to compete. We should be helping each other out.
That's good.
I mean, there's enough food
going here.
There's enough food on the table for every one of us to eat.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't all just start scarfing down prime filet just because it's prime filet. Guess what? I happen to like bacon better. Right? I like getting greasy. I like the flavor of the bacon better. Anyhow, he started his company. We took part ownership of the then company. We were making some business decisions, and he would find tools and he'd say, "Hey, I found this great tool. Give it a try." And we'd find a great tool and we'd say, "Hey, here's a tool. Give it a try." So, I believe, I'm 99% sure that it was Jason that said, "You need to try this." And it was Hound Dog. And Hound Dog was amazing at the time. It blew my mind. For what it was at the time, it just blew my mind. Like, I don't have to have a VPN all the time. I don't have to have this super expensive T1 that I'm paying for. And because at the time I couldn't get anything other than T1s at my house. I used to live out in the, not that I don't live out in the boonies now, but I used to live out in the real boonies back then. Right. So that made things a whole lot better. We stayed with Hound Dog until 2012, I believe. They had gone through the sale to the first sale, GFI. And let me tell you, when Hound Dog was Hound Dog, their support was amazing. Hey, I'm having this weird bitty little problem. They were in Scotland, and you could call them, and some guy who was part owner of the company would answer the phone and go, yeah, and let me fix that, and I don't have a good Scottish accent, so I'm not even really going to try. I have a pretty decent Indian, but not a Scottish. We'll get into scam calls later. So that changed our approach to things. It helped us start visualizing the idea of, hey, you know what, there's a better way of doing things. We found ConnectWise, what is now ConnectWise Manage, I believe. I don't remember what ConnectWise calls itself now, because now it's just ConnectWise, a company, and then they have all these little sub products.
Yeah,
I just call it ConnectWise.
You found the PSA.
The PSA.
ConnectWise Manage.
And we told Jason, and Jason took it up and just blown away, right? Because he was doing the same thing we had been doing, which was, hard ticket entries into an Access database that I created way back in the day that then I turned into a SQL database, and it was okay, right? It did the job, but it wasn't this. It wasn't this, managed thing platform. So he went down that road, and to put it in more context here is that Jason and I are friends, okay? We don't see each other now as much as we used to. Life sort of gets in the way. He's got a bunch of kids, got 3 kids, a lovely family, just love them to pieces, but they get super busy. They teenager through just preteen right now, there's very little free time they have. So we don't meet as often. We don't go and hang out as often. Give me 1 second. There we go. The temperatures don't say it, but it is spring, and my allergies are kicking.
Yes. Mine are too.
So,
and the crazy thing about my allergies is that it's I don't get like the sniffles as much. I do, but the thing that happens to me mostly is I get a cough, and then so I get this like dry cough, and then my kids start thinking, Dad's got the Rona. Like, So I got my wife bringing me like allergy pills every morning because she remembers and I don't. And
aren't wives wonderful things?
They really are, truly.
I'm in the same boat. If I'd forget to take my pills, 6 days out of 7, if it weren't for my wife going, hey, here are your pills, take them.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Part of the reason she does that is because she doesn't want to deal with the sneezing that comes. Because when I have a sneeze attack, it's hours of sneeze. And it happens sometimes at 1 a.m, and she can't sleep when I'm sneeze, right? So,
that's the what's even worse than that though is when your spouse, and I'm not going to name names, okay, but maybe a spouse has like narcolepsy. And it causes them to have really weird nightmares while they're asleep, and if they forget to take their medicine, and then so like one spouse is reminding the one to take their pills, but then the one is reminding the other to take their pills. Like I can remember she needs to take hers because I don't want to deal with her in the middle of the night, but I can't remember to take my own. But she'll remind me to take mine. But holy cow. Let me tell you, there are some really weird diagnoses, diagnostication, whatever. Anyway, so
Strategery. Strategery.
Yes, it's more gooder. So there's some really weird like diseases and stuff, and and then the things that people do with medicine, like the pills that they can create, that blows my mind. And we still have coronavirus. We're still here.
Well, that's what happens when you're not as good as Ozzy Osbourne at eating dead bats.
Oh my gosh. All right, back to you and your ConnectWise and Hound Dog.
So Jason jumped on the ConnectWise thing, same as we had, and he got pitched the LabTech thing by ConnectWise. And I had already tested LabTech, and at the time I tested LabTech, it was like version 9. We were still running Hound Dog, and let me tell you, it was horrendous.
Oh, LabTech was so ugly back then. But
it's not about ugly. It's just it wasn't functional. It didn't do things.
Oh, I think it. Well, let me see. I think I tested it back when it was like LabTech. It was 2011, like early 2011. So it might have been like LabTech 7 at that point, like 6 or 7. I feel like is the version I tested out. Maybe 8.
It was earlier than 2011 then, because I tested version 9. I think it was in like 2010.
Maybe it was 9 that I tested out.
I don't know. All I know was horrendous.
I thought it did a great job at stuff. I just had to click 96 times in order to get to one thing. And that whole, like that fast talk thing, just so that, because normally the agents would check in this slowly
every 5 minutes.
and then you'd have to hit a button in order for them to start checking in faster. Like the whole thing, it was just very unintuitive. But I could tell, like, someday this thing's going to be great. But right now, it's not great for me. I actually signed on with LabTech. It must have been 2010 or 2011 on LabTech 9 then. Like I said, there's been so many. I don't know, guys, okay? So I signed up with it. I was using it. I was setting it up. And I actually had a part-time job at a data center. I was working noon to midnight on Saturdays and Sundays, and they didn't care what I did as long as I did the approximately 90-ish minutes of work that needed to be done while I was there for those 12 hours. So I would spend the other 10 and a half hours, eating way too much. I gained 100 pounds working there for 8 months, 6 to 8 months. Yeah, no joke. 100 pounds.
God.
That's, and I still have not been able to lose it. I would eat, the medium bag of M&Ms. It's like this big. I would eat one of those on Saturday, and then I'd walk next door. Hey, at least I went walking. I would walk next door to Drug Mart, and I would buy another medium bag of M&Ms. And then I'd walk back to the data center. We had to do rounds. So I'd walk around the data center when you had to check the electricity meter and they had it, like we had to write down where the gauges were at on the electricity meter. We had to write down all these stuff, electricity, water. We had to check the fuel level on the generators. Like there was just so much stuff we had to check. And I get it. But man, dude, that job was just so tedious. There was one time they had me counting screws. I'm not kidding. It was like counting and sorting rack
We have
screws.
no work for Steve, but we need him here for the next 12 hours. What can we do? Here's a box of screws.
It was a manned data center. It required somebody on site 24/7. They had like major hospitals inside there.
And now you can monitor half that stuff, more than half that stuff, automatically with no problems.
Well, no, they were using all this free stuff too. Like, it blew me away how much open source product they were using.
If it works, it works.
Yeah, you're right. But holy cow, I was like, I'm sitting there like setting up my lab tech, and I'm looking at, like, I think they're using Nagios and some other stuff.
Hey! Don't hate on Nagios. That was the basis of a lot of my scripting and monitoring way back in the day.
And I'm just like, in lab tech, I'm like, I can do all of this in lab tech. This is so stupid. And I'm setting up my lab tech. I had invested easily 240 hours in lab tech in the time that I was working in that data center. And even after all that, it was still awful. It was just so awful because the interface, it was just such a pain in the ass to find anything, to be able to configure things correctly. And then, like, there's the groups and folders and this and that, and, like, getting the nesting just right. I left it. I think I went back to GFI Max, or I went to Level Platforms, Managed Workplace, or I don't know. I tried them all. I think the only thing that I changed more than my RMM and PSA was my underwear.
Maybe.
So, yeah, it's a strong maybe. But yeah, let me tell you guys, if you can get a gig working at one of those 24-hour data centers on the weekends, where all they need you to do is some rounds and change some tapes on some customers' servers. Yeah, man.
God.
They had me changing tapes. Mm-hmm. That job was a riot.
Oh my God. How far we've come, huh?
Well, and you got to think, man, that was like 2010, 2011. Like, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but then you realize, like, holy shit, that was 9-10 years ago. Changing tapes.
It's been a while.
But like, those hospitals are still probably using those tape decks. Oh my gosh. I'm genuinely
at this point
curious.
in time, I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at this point in time if people were still using tapes for some things.
Absolutely.
Part of what you run into when you take on a new client is old technology that they haven't moved on from because it works, right? Well, you know what? This is no longer supported, but it works. But it's no longer supported, so you're exposed to malware and attacks and this, that, especially because it's internet facing, but it works, Carlos.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get back onto the track, and then we can.
Yeah, you were telling me a story. Anyhow, I'm sorry, I ruined story.
No
time.
Big deal. I mean, I do the same thing. We squirrel. So Jason got pitched Lab Tech. He jumped from GFI Max to Lab Tech, and it was singing his praises. And I'm like, man, I've tried this thing before. It was garbage and this, that, the other. He says, you really need to try it again. And again, he's a good friend. I value his opinion. So I gave it a try. I gave it a try in November of 2011, I think it was. And on December 31st of 2011, I signed my contract to go to Lab Tech.
Good for you.
And we've been on Lab Tech ever since. And I'll say that I have my go ahead.
I was just going to ask, did you ever use that Lab Tech Ignite when it started?
Oh yeah, that was the first thing we had. Okay. Because Ignite did away with a lot of the scripts that I already had. I was just like, well, I don't have to rebuild these. Mind you, I very much enjoy using Automate, which is what Lab Tech is called today. There are days when I just want to just go, I need to just build my own and just be done with this yoke because ConnectWise is kicking my ass. So there's some problems that the system has that you just want to pull your hair out on. However, I haven't found anything better.
And
I have
you do
so
look every now and then.
many. Oh yeah, I still evaluate things. I'm not gonna continue to use the same hammer because it's pounding the nails right, when there may be a hammer that pounds the nails better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I still look every couple of years at what's available, but I haven't found something that does the job as well, significantly better, that I'm willing to abandon all the automation that I have built.
I've seen a lot of people recently switching over from Automate to one of three tools. Kaseya.
I'm taking notes. Hang on.
Well, no, probably one of four tools. Kaseya, if I think I've been told, if you hate yourself, because Kaseya is still really, really difficult to maneuver around. It is just as capable as LabTech, if not more, in a lot of respect. It just doesn't have all of the fancy plugins that LabTech does. But Automate. That Automate does. However, there's also some pros to that, where the less shit you've got connected to your tool, the fewer chances there are of you getting hacked.
True.
So yeah, there's that. So Kaseya is one. Datto RMM, I still hold a special place in my heart for that tool, because even though, say what you will about Datto, I really liked and respect Datto as a company. They built their BDR systems around really awesome support, and sometimes people might have trouble doing a recovery or doing a backup, but I felt every time I had to use their support, I'd call them at 1 or 2 in the morning, they would answer and they would help me.
Yeah. I use Datto BDR and it's amazing.
Yeah. So I love Autotask so much more than ConnectWise PSA, the ConnectWise Manage, but it's missing some things. ConnectWise Manage, last I looked, it's able to run like workflow rules based off of invoices and billing, whereas last I looked, Autotask cannot. So ConnectWise, they put a lot of time and money into developing their products, and they put a lot of time and money into acquiring products that are the best of the best on the market. So I do think it's going to be difficult to find something that can beat every single thing that ConnectWise does. But Datto RMM, like I said, that one holds a special place in my heart because one simple reason. When you go to create an automation script, you can say, you can upload the file, like say you want to install Microsoft Office 365. You can upload the generic installer to the script, and then you don't have to be like download using the bits from command prompt or whatever, and then save it to this file in this location and then run it from no, you just upload that file and it's attached to the script, and you can literally just type in file.exe. You don't even have to type in the path, because it just handles it for you.
That's nice.
So they did some things that made it a lot easier, in my opinion. They've got you can add the user defined fields to endpoints, clients, that type of stuff. So that way, when you're deploying things like Cisco Umbrella, you can have one generic script, and it's got variables in the script that then call to the user defined field. So that way you can deploy Umbrella to all of your clients with one script. And it's the unique installer for each client. So I feel like they did some things right. Again, are they as powerful as ConnectWise Automate? Probably not, but I feel like they're really working on getting there.
But Automate does that as well, right? So,
sure. Well, and I'm not saying that Automate doesn't. I'm just saying, like, you know, Datto RMM, like it had some features that I really liked that I didn't have with other things. Like SolarWinds MSP RMM still cannot do that variable thing. But I went to SolarWinds MSP RMM because I can run it from my Mac as the MSP. With Datto RMM, you can't run like the remote control from a Mac. You have to run it on Windows.
We are in 2020, people.
I know.
Not in 1920, even though it feels like 1920.
Yeah, there's this pandemic going around, but like they finally last year started working on, well, not working on, but they finally started releasing like HTML5 browser-based stuff for Datto RMM. I have no idea how good it is, but now with the browser-based stuff, you can run it from your Mac or iPad or iPhone without downloading a tool. You can just get in and do it.
Well, you know, Automate isn't the same problem. You know, they're finally getting into the 2020 world, but I mean, we were promised this back in 2011.
Oh my gosh!
So the features that they've promised in 2011 are showing up in 2020. Yay! We're only 10 years behind the power curve. Yay!
Wow. So Kaseya, though, they have the full-blown Kaseya remote agent, runs on Mac, runs great on Mac. Their remote agent, like with all of the capabilities you have from the Mac or PC, you know, whatever. I just found it to be really great. It was just the rest of the system, unless, like, you know, if you've got, you know, a few people working for you, and you've got the bandwidth internally, you know, the available time internally to be able to really go in and customize your tool, or you want to spend, you know, thousands of dollars to just have an external consultant take care of it for you, or, you know, whatever, right? You know, any of these tools can be badass. Kaseya could absolutely be badass, but, you know, when you're a sole proprietor and you are more worried about customer satisfaction and just getting things done quickly for people, which means you can't figure out how to, you know, turn this script into an automation within your RMM, like, that's no good. Like if you're, I mean, that's no good, especially if it's really convoluted to try and figure some of that stuff out. And I'm not saying that maybe I'm just an idiot, you know, I could just be an idiot, but I know a lot of other people that have really mean things to say about Kaseya. And I'm not saying Kaseya is a terrible product. I'm just saying it wasn't the right product for me. You know,
for me, I got sick and tired of their salespeople calling me, you know, over and over, even though I've told them, look, I'm happy. Leave me alone. I appreciate. I went from being polite with the Kaseya people to just being outright nasty, because polite only got me, you know, more calls. Mm-hmm. And it's sad that they don't understand that a polite turn down is just that. It's a polite turn down. Would you please don't? If I'm ever interested, I'll call you. It's no big deal. You know, if I decide I want to try this, I'll give you a call. I really will. But if I tell you, hey, look, I'm happy where I'm at, please don't call me, you should be brave enough and smart enough to go, I shouldn't call that guy. Because the next thing, because sooner or later, you're going to flip the switch and I'm going to get nasty on you. And then I'm going to record it, and then I'm going to put it on SoundCloud, and then I'm going to put it on Reddit, on the MSP subreddits, and go, hey, everybody, let's have a good laugh at Kaseya or whomever, right?
Well, guess what? To be fair, though, hold on a second. To be fair, I had a really great call with a podcast recording with Jamie Donow, and you know, she's she does the whole sales marketing thing. And she said to me, come on, Steve, do you really think that salesperson wants to be calling you?
No, of course they don't.
Do you really think they're dumb enough to not realize that you don't want them calling you and that you don't want to be on the phone with them? And you think they're really dense enough to not like hear the tone in your voice? And I said, I guess that's a really good point. She's like, yeah, they hate everything about that, but they're required to call.
Yeah, they have to make their numbers, right? Hey, you have a list, and part of that list is Steve and Carlos. You got to call them. Carlos said not to call them. You got to call them. I get that, okay?
But can't you say, please add me to your do not call list?
Apparently not, right?
I guess that only works for personal.
But here's the thing. If you have to call me, right? If part of your shtick is that you have to call me, and you know that there's a note that says, this guy said not to call him anymore, you can open by saying, Carlos, it's Joe Blow from Kaseya. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I had to call you because my boss said I had to call you. Okay. Now, if you want to talk to me, awesome. If not, at least I can check off the box. Okay. Right? But don't call me saying, hey, Carlos, remember we talked 2 weeks ago and you said to call you today because you were interested in my product. Bull.
Yeah, that is
absolute bull. My memory's not great these days, but I know that I told your dumbass not to call me anymore.
No, you keep like kind of referencing your age, but I don't I look at you and other people are going to look at you and they're going to think like early 40s. Baby,
I got it. When I'm 80, I'll look like I'm 60 and I'll still be able to get the 40-year-old women.
And how's your wife going to feel about that?
I don't know. She might kick my ass.
So
let's say I look a lot younger than I am.
Yeah. He's at least.
We're not going to go down this road again because I've explained it and you refuse to believe it. So
he's at least 70. He's at least 74, guys. Okay.
Yes, at least.
Throw that out there. At least 74. He's got that Benjamin Button disease.
John Dice tried really hard. Let me tell you. I'm like, okay.
Oh, hey, John. I actually know the real number. I just thought you should know.
Yes. And it's admirable that he got as close to what he did given the misinformation that I feed the world.
Let me tell you, man, he did a lot of weird
he did a lot of
research.
Work, man. He's like, I got your Facebook and this, that, and the other, and you are this. And I'm like, man, that's exactly what I've told the world. That's amazing. Yeah, and part of what I do is
he's looking up addresses. He's like Google stalking you, man. He's like, I found your address, Carlos. So
the thing is, he found. Well, the funny thing is that he found an address. He found an address that I owned, but I didn't live there. And you don't live here. You drive this kind of car. And then he saw my car and was like, told you I don't drive that car, man. That's not me. That's the person that lives at that house.
That's hysterical, man. Poor John. Poor John.
All right. You know what? I don't feel poor. I don't say poor John because John found himself a nice gig and he's getting fat and happy.
He is. He's doing well. So for those of you that have no idea, Carlos and I have been buddies for a few years now. We've been e-buddies. We've been
e-buddies, ebuddies.com. I wonder if that registered. Let's see. I bet you that's registered to some. I bet you that's registered to some porn site.
We're gonna look this up, aren't we?
Oh, it's registered on GoDaddy, but it's definitely registered and it's parked. So I'm just looking up the who is. I'm not going to the website. No thanks. I've done that by mistake too many times.
Let's do this. We're going to the website, guys.
Buddies.
ebuddies.com.
Boy, this domain.
ASCII price of $10,000.
Somebody's going to buy it sooner or later.
And it might be me.
Maybe man, you, Mr. Moneybags, you go ahead.
So yeah, Carlos and I, we've been doing this like Zoom call thing where it looks a lot like this, and we just we used to hang out in Zoom for like 6 to 10 hours a day, and we would just hang out. We'd shoot the shit. I mean, we still do.
There were 6 or 10 of us somewhere in that neighborhood, depending on the day, and we'd all be doing our work with our Zoom going, and shooting the shit, and poking fun at each other, and occasionally helping each other. Hey, Steve, I'm stuck on this. You have any idea what this is? Yeah, here. So on. Hey, John, I got this, and John, and so on and so forth, right? But yeah, we've been hanging this. You've been to my place once now. One of these days, I'll show up at yours. There's a skydiving center nearby. I'm sure I'll end up there.
Yeah. So Carlos, you've got some really interesting hobbies, man. Like
we're going to call them hobbies. Yes.
Passions in life.
Passions is more of is an appropriate word. I don't have hobbies. I have things that people should consider hobbies that I turn into businesses because I don't know how not to turn something into a business.
That's fair.
So over my right shoulder, you see a picture of skydiving. That's me taking my wife for a tandem last year, I believe. I collect interesting art. Those are from, although I haven't turned that into a business, and I'm not going to do that. That's just too much work. And I have photography. I don't have one of my shots handy. The nearest shot I have handy is on that wall, and I'm not going to go get it. Actually, I'm going to go get it. I'm very proud of that shot. Hang on.
Okay, that's fair. So yeah, Carlos does, like you said, he does photography. And the coolest thing is Carlos does like skydiving photography. Which that sounds like two things you've got to be really good at all at once. All right, Carlos, go ahead and say something.
So this is a shot, one of my shots I have on the wall. Obviously I'm proud of this shot. It's a beautiful shot. But we did let me put this down real quick.
That's a beautiful shot for so many reasons too.
The lighting was perfect. We caught the right lighting at the right time of the day. And the jump was this jump couldn't have been any better. The fellow flying the flag is a friend of mine. He's Mike Klashna. He's an instructor where I also teach skydiving in Chicagoland Skydiving Center in Rochelle, Illinois. We hosted United States Parachute Association's National Skydiving Championship in 2018. And on the afternoon of September 11th, we were far enough into the competition that we could halt operations and just, call the afternoon a time to think about where we had been and so on and so forth. It happens that the United States military has competition teams in skydiving.
Had you only known that back when you were in the Army?
Actually, I did. It's just, I'll admit to being a chicken shit.
You were a chicken shit back when you were in the Army?
Oh, absolutely. The Golden Knights have existed since the late 1960s, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but it's in that neighborhood. And I knew that the Golden Knights existed. The reason I wanted to start skydiving is the Golden Knights. I saw the Golden Knights perform in my hometown in Puerto Rico way back when I was like 4 years old. And I saw them fall out of the sky, and it was beautiful. And I was like, I'm going to do that someday. And I kept on saying, I'm going to do that someday. I'm going to do that someday. And my wife got sick and tired of hearing I'm going to do that someday, and she got me a skydive for a birthday gift a number of years ago. And bug bit me.
So when she got you that birthday gift, were you out of the Army then already?
Yes, I had been out of the Army for a long time already.
And you didn't have to jump in the Army?
No, I didn't. And in the Army, I knew the Golden Knights existed, and they were actively recruiting. They're always actively recruiting. So if you think you may want to take up skydiving as a full-time job and you're in the Army or thinking about going into the service, go see the Golden Knights. So the Golden Knights 8-way team was at the competition, but they had to leave. If you go back in history to September of 2018, there was a hurricane barreling down onto North Carolina. And guess what? They live in North Carolina. They had to go take care of their family and property. Mm-hmm. But the other service team that was there was the Air Force Academy's team, the Wings of Blue. So we talked to the Wings of Blue and said, hey, guys, we're shutting down for the afternoon to do a memorial skydive for 9/11. Would you care to join us? And they were all, let's do this now. Let's go. So we planned it out, made the jump. So it was 2 civilians and 18 members of the Air Force skydiving team. The 2 civilians being
at least one of those civilians is a veteran, though, right?
Me, right? And then the other one, is Mike Clash, and he's flying the flag. And what we did is the Air Force team left the airplane and they set up a reception line for us, and then flew around a bit, and then they came in and landed in a row. You see them lined up there, right? That's a receiving line. So after flying around for a little bit, they just bolted off and then came into land, set up everything. And, that wasn't part of the plan, but it happened to just work. They decided somewhere along the line that they were going to set up a receiving line. And I was set up to land in it, and my brain went, how much time do I have? I don't have enough time. He's right behind me. I need to land, get rid of my gear, and get ready for a picture because it's going to be amazing. I could see that the shot was going to happen. And I had just stripped my parachute off, and I have a helmet. I don't have it handy, with my camera on top and a switch that I triggered with my mouth, and tick, 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 tick. I'm like, let one of these shots come through, for the love of God. Let one of these shots come through. And sure enough, I had maybe 5 that just were perfectly beautiful, but that was the best one out of the lot, I think.
That's phenomenal, man. That truly is.
So that's the Air Force Wings of Blue team lined up to receive the flag. There is, and I have to make this clear anytime I explain this or anything like this to people that don't skydive. There is a 40-pound lead weight at the bottom of that flag. You don't really catch it here, but it's right behind this person's leg.
How many pounds?
40. You do not. First of all, that's not a flag. You definitely don't want
to be on the receiving end for that.
Exactly. First of all, that's not a flag. A flag has a United States flag has very specific ratios. That is a banner.
Okay.
It does not meet the dimension requirements for the flag on purpose.
On purpose.
It is a banner. Because it has a 40-pound lead bag at the bottom, no one's going to catch that. It means the banner's going to hit the ground.
And okay. So in order for it to not be disrespectful to our nation's flag, we intentionally make them not flag dimensions, so they're a banner, and then it's okay for a banner of the United States that looks like the United States flag. It looks like it, but it's a banner.
Exactly.
It's okay for the banner to touch the ground.
And we do that with all flags that we fly, not just the United States. When we fly some other flag, we intentionally build it as a banner. That's not something you buy. You have to build that. They don't make that. Right? That is parachute fabric being used to make that, because if you make it out of normal nylon or normal polyester, it is way too heavy and it does not wave and furl in the wind.
So, wow, learning all kinds of stuff today. So like those little cheap flags on the wooden sticks that they pass out at parades, are those flags or banners?
I don't know. I've never measured one, but I can tell you that was built by one of our riggers intentionally out of specs.
Okay.
In the aspect ratio, so that it does not qualify as a flag. So anyhow,
how big is that thing?
That thing is 400, almost 500 square feet, something like that.
Okay.
So call it.
I mean, it looks like it's at least 15 feet tall, and then maybe like 20 feet long.
It's at least that. It's longer than that. It's let's see. I've packed it in our packing mat, and our packing mat is probably 22 foot one dimension by 60 feet the other dimension.
No way.
And it takes every bit of the packing mat, isn't it? It is super, super big. Well, it doesn't take the entire length of the packing mat, but it takes a lot of it. And actually, I've packed it. You don't pack that flag. You have a team of people that have to get together to fold it just right, because you can't do it by yourself. It's just, I suppose you could, but it's a lot of work.
That's awesome, man. I could sit here and ask you questions about skydiving all day, because it is just so neat to me. But I too am a chicken shit, and I will never jump out of a plane.
Well, I said that, right? But my wife spent money, and we don't spend money frivolously. And she gave me this incredible skydiving gift.
But how many parachutes would I need is my concern. Like,
you would need a very large one.
I would need a parachute at least the size of that flag. I mean,
it'd be bigger. Well, no, actually, it would be about the same size as that flag. We would put you in a 400 square foot wing for sure.
Wing? Not even a chute?
Well, that's what we call a parachute. It's a wing.
Oh, okay.
If you look at the design of the parachute, it is a wing. It is if you put it side by side with an airplane wing, they look identical. The only difference is that the airplane wing is made out of aluminum typically, and ours is made out of zero porosity fabric, nylon. It has holes in the front on purpose because those holes let air pop into it and inflate the wing, and it turns it into a wing shape.
See, and I always think of, and I always think of like those old school parachutes where they look like circles in the movies. You know?
Around. So yeah, if you're thinking about military parachutes, yes, that's not a wing. That's just a parachute.
So is that still the type of parachute that they use today in certain?
The military does. There's a few people in the civilian world that will still jump one for nostalgic reasons. If you are really bent on hurting yourself on the landing, you jump around.
Oh, so the round is not as good as a wing.
No, a ram air parachute, which is what I fly, I can stall right next to the ground and tiptoe a landing. People think, landings on parachutes are hard. Openings on parachutes are hard. And actually, they're not. On a round, yes. On a modern ram air wing, no.
And you said you can stall above the ground, so you can actually control the speed.
Yeah, 100%.
Which you're going down.
You have control over that wing. I don't have a video handy of a landing, but if I thought about it, I would.
Who would have thought I'd be asking about skydiving on an MSP thing, right?
But I'm a skydiver. truths about skydivers. You will know who a skydiver is because we'll tell you. Mm-hmm. We're just as bad as vegans.
Oh, and you're even worse than CrossFitters.
Yes, we're worse than CrossFitters. Yikes. Just wait till you find a cross-fitting vegan skydiver, and then you got it.
Oh, it's going to hit the fan if you find one of those.
The trifecta. I know. I know at least one vegan, 2, 3, 4 vegan skydivers. So they have 2 of the 3.
I'm sure one of them has to do CrossFit.
I don't think so. I don't think any of them do CrossFit. But then again, maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, fair. So you also, as we discussed, you also do photography.
Yes.
And you go to Columbus and you do photography there.
Among many other places, yes. One of the things I like to do is go to Columbus, to the Arnold, which sadly we didn't have this year because of this coronavirus crap. But I was really mad when that happened. I will admit I was just livid, devastated, because it's one of the visits that to Columbus that I really enjoy every year. Hindsight being what it is, your governor in Ohio did the right thing in calling it off. I am not sure that the Arnold can survive this.
Really?
Well,
now,
Arnold,
do you mean, to clarify, you mean you're not sure that we'll ever have an Arnold again?
Correct. And not because of COVID-19 exactly, but because of their handling of COVID-19. I did the wrong thing there. I now have to go cut my hand off. The Arnold Sports Festival, and understand that I haven't followed up on this, so for all I know, this has changed. The Arnold Sports Festival told the vendors, hey, governor canceled it, didn't call a state emergency. Our insurance won't cover that. Good luck. Here's 5% of your money, and that's it.
No freaking way.
That's the last I heard. I have not followed it up, okay? And to me, if I were a vendor and someone stuck me in the ribs for 95% of a show,
I'd never go there again.
Exactly. Especially at an expensive show like the Arnold. I'm not at liberty to discuss the fees that I know because I'm not certain I was supposed to know them. But I know that they're very expensive.
Well, I can tell you that the Arnold, whether it survives or not, if you go to its website here, they've already got their dates picked out for next year.
Oh, of course. I mean, they had their dates picked out before the Arnold happened this year. But for this to happen, you have to have vendors and sponsors and so on and so forth. And look, Diamond sponsors Rogue. Well, Rogue is in Columbus, Ohio, and their equipment is used for 99% of the stuff that happens there. You know, you're going to have them. I'm actually surprised that they have these many already lined up in those levels because.
Yeah, but look at the, like some of these companies are just ginormous. You know, like
I mean, the Ohio Lottery is the arena, this downtown district of Columbus, of course. You know how many millions of dollars show up on Arnold weekend.
Wow.
In 2018, I think they had it tallied out to something like $56 or $57 million flow into Columbus, Ohio, Thursday through Sunday. And that does not include the Arnold Sports Festival money. Okay, that's just people showing up to buy breakfast, lunch, dinner, hotel rooms, and Airbnbs, Ubers, et cetera, et cetera. All the stuff that goes along with being somewhere that that's not home. Right?
Wow.
That's a
I'll
lot
tell
of
you,
money.
Airbnb, I did that once, and I loved it.
Yeah, that's what we do every year. We go to the Arnold. We stay at an Airbnb somewhere near the venue. It's always about a mile away from the venue on purpose. It forces us to go for a walk every day, every morning and every evening. And I tend to make it in the short north on purpose, or I used to. I'm a little sad, Steve. There was past tense, a bakery right off of, oh my God, what's the name of that main drag there? I don't remember. In any case, the main street in Columbus runs north and south. I don't know what it's called. There was a bakery that was wonderful.
And they're just gone.
I don't eat a lot of baked goods, but when I'm in Columbus, I used to eat breakfast and lunch from this place.
And it's as
Sadly,
far as you're concerned, it's just gone.
It is gone. It is gone. They closed late last year at some point in time.
It's because they knew coronavirus was going to hit a year later.
That's not the story they tell, but I'm sure. I don't know where the baker ended up at.
That's what it is.
Is their website even up anymore?
What was the name of the place?
Laughlin's Bakery, LAUGHIN '(S) Bakery. Columbus got together. This guy used to be an opera singer, if I remember right.
According to Google Maps, they're open.
They're closed. Go to their Facebook page and you'll see that he posted that they sadly had to close.
No. Google says it's open until 5.
Okay. Well,
it's on the internet.
Google. It's on the internet. It's got to be true.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But it wasn't closed until January 5th.
I know it was sometime late last year or early this year, whatever. I just know that I made the plans for the Arnold in mid-January, and my wife said, "I have bad news for you." And I said, "Whoa, what?" She goes, "Laughlin's is closed." I said, "What? No, well, it's closed right now. Of course, it's 9:00 in the evening." No, it's closed permanently. What? Yeah, this guy, fantastic baker. He used to be a singer in an opera company somewhere in Europe or something like that. Lost his voice. His hometown is Columbus. The Columbus community got around and they built this bakery for him, or at least they helped it, right? They helped build it. It was set up as a Kickstarter. Anyhow, it is no more. But let me tell you, if Mr. Laughlin is baking somewhere, I hope someone tells me where so that I can go eat there. Let me tell you, fantastic food, just baked goods. Steve, I'm going to say something that's going to sound disgusting initially, but just give it a chance. A croissant made with pretzel dough.
Okay.
Stuffed with cheese and ham. Instead of chocolate and being sweet and whatnot, it is salty, savory, and it's stuffed with cheese and ham.
I'm on board.
Like the first time I heard that, I was just like, are you out of your damn mind? What is wrong with you? A croissant is supposed to be, sweet and delicious and just And the guy's
No,
like,
see, and when I hear croissant, like
croissant,
first
or
you
something
have
like
to,
that. Yeah,
you always have
I'm
to
not
say it
French.
real French like that, But my favorite way to eat a croissant, is from the Burger King drive-through in breakfast with ham, egg, and cheese on it. Yeah, I know. But I live a sheltered life, and I don't know what fine dining is. I don't know what real food is. If I can't get it from a drive-through, I've probably never eaten it.
Well, that's
Like you post some really interesting meat on your Facebook.
Well, I thought we were going to keep this PG-13, man. I thought we were going to go down to X rating.
Oh my gosh, the food meat. Food meat. You post some really delicious looking food on your Facebook, and I don't know if you go hunting or if
I do. Again,
okay.
That's a hobby that I can definitely say I can't turn into a business. It's not legal,
right?
But it is a delicious hobby.
So I think I could maybe pull the trigger and kill something. Maybe. I am 90% certain I would cry after. And I could definitely not drag a carcass around and then cut it open and deal with it. Clean it out.
See, that's all part of the hunt. You gotta, at some point in time, you gotta sack up and do that.
Nope, not gonna do it. You know where my meat comes from, Carlos? The store.
The grocery store, yeah.
Yeah.
My sister's the same way. How could you? I'm like, well, let's see. You're eating chicken that came from a farm with a chicken that had about, half a square foot of room to move in, so it didn't move.
You think it had that much?
Well, not initially. Eventually it had to have that much to be able to fit in it. Let me see. I got a message here real quick. Okay. And, living in inhumane conditions until it then got chopped off, or electrocuted in a bath of water to then become.
That's not how they do it, is it?
Go Google it.
I really don't want to.
Well, there you go.
Look, my chicken is made in a factory somewhere.
It is, and it is absolutely a factory. Without question, it is a factory.
It's made in a factory. It just, comes right off the assembly line, just chicken breasts, okay?
Uh-huh.
Boneless, skinless. How do you even get a bone in a chicken breast? Like, that's just weird. Like, the fact that people put extra time into putting bones into their chicken just baffles me.
Yeah, I mean, who would do that? That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
My comparison is, okay, you have your chicken coming out of a factory that never lived, or I can hunt and kill, hopefully, an animal that has been free all of its life, that led a happy life up until the time when my arrow went through it.
Oh, so you do bow hunting? You don't shoot them with a gun?
Not traditionally. I used to hunt with guns. I find the bow and arrow to be more of a challenge, more fun.
You have to get closer to them, though.
You have to get a whole lot closer. It takes a lot more patience and a lot more skill. And by no means misunderstand me. Look, if your thing is hunting with a gun, have fun. It's just that my thing is hunting with a bow and arrow. Do I use a gun? Yeah, can't really hunt geese and ducks with a bow and arrow. I suppose you could, but...
What if we went hunting with, like, I don't know, C4 or, I don't know, something explosive?
I don't think that's legal, Steve.
Who's going to stop me? I mean, come on.
Generally, the game warden... The game warden would have a real problem with that, Steve.
Well, it's not a game, though, Carlos. This is real life.
Exactly.
So why is there a game warden, first of all? Because it doesn't... I mean, I guess it's because it's fun, but I didn't realize we kept score.
Well, we do keep score. The state keeps score. They keep track of numbers of animals killed and types, because that's how they manage the herds and the flocks. The federal government also keeps track of a lot of those things.
Interesting.
Migratory birds are licensed both state and federal. So
how many bald eagles can I kill?
One before you go to prison. I mean, I suppose you could do more, but you kill a bald eagle, let me tell you, there's going to be a wrath of people on you. You're not going to you're going to be begging for prison. You're going to be like, I need to be safe. Put me in prison. The hillbillies are going to kill me. Let me tell you, you're going to have a wrath of people trying to kill you.
How many like cats and dogs can I kill?
I don't know. I don't know that there's a limit on them, but there's no season on them either. Right? How about this? The moment you kill somebody's pet, you're also going to be on somebody's hunt list.
Hey, look, it can't be a pet. It keeps shitting in my yard.
Well,
and I'm talking about a cat, not a dog.
I'm just telling you.
There's a cat, I swear. It must be like a neighbor's or something. There's a cat that like wanders around our yard all day, shits in our yard. And then like if, my son's outside playing, it'll like sneak into our garage. I seriously, okay, I just want to clarify again. I don't think I could pull the trigger, and if I did, there's a 90% chance I'm going to cry, okay? I would never hurt a cat or a dog. They are adorable. They are the sweetest, most...
I would never hurt Misty,
yeah,
but I'm tired of her shit.
Yeah, literally tired of her shit in my yard. And I don't think it's named Misty. I think it's...
I'm just... random cat name.
I know, whatever.
Just so you know, when you post this up, the cat lovers are going to come after you. Just so you know.
They might. I have a cat. I would, if my cat is really tolerant of me and my family. Like my cat, I can pick her up and I can flip her onto her back and hold her like a baby, and I just rub her belly, and she just sits there and she gives those like eye kisses where she's like,
no, she's plotting your death. She's plotting your death when you're doing it. She's plotting your death.
She's purring and she just nuzzles. She nuzzles into me, and then she'll just fall asleep like that. So no, I love cats. They are adorable. Tiger
I love
King,
cats too, man. They're delicious.
Oh my gosh, Tiger King, great show. Loved it. Everything. Did you watch Tiger King? Let me tell you, man, that show. Oh my gosh! So Tiger.
Let me tell you, if you were going to get cat lovers hating on you for posting this, you're going to really get some cat lovers hating on you for me saying that.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with liking Chinese food. We might as well just get everyone hating us, right? So,
that's how the Chinese ate bats. Zing! Yikes!
I think they'll eat anything, man.
Here we go.
I don't know. So we're gonna have everyone hating us. This is gonna be terrible.
I mean, everybody hates me anyways.
So I too am getting into photography, Carlos.
Cool.
I recently bought some toys. As you saw, I got this here. I still have to get some images and videos off of this. We'll kind of see how that goes. And for people that are wondering what this thing does, let me turn it on. I'm going to turn this on. It should still be balanced. And then now I can just double tap this and it should straighten out. And now as I move it around, it's holding that camera steady for me. It's called a gimbal. And then you can hold in this trigger and the camera will actually pan with you. It's neat. It's really neat. There's a lot to learn with this thing. So I got that. And then for my cell phone, I got this similar. It's just, for a cell phone. And then I also got myself, spilled water all over the place. And I also got myself one of these. And let me tell you, this thing is a good time.
I can imagine. How do you? Well, never mind. I'll leave. I'll leave the. I'll be good.
No, please.
No.
Make your jokes.
No.
I'm. You're probably gonna. So no, Carlos. I have not figured out how to zoom on it. If that's what you're about to ask.
No, I was going to ask you, how do you keep it, from distracting you in the bedroom while it's hovering and, shooting that angle?
So the really you're ridiculous. So the really neat thing
you
about
said
this,
go for it.
Yeah, it's not as bad as I thought you were going to ask me how well it takes shots of like the neighbor or something like.
Nah, you know what? That's just invasion of privacy. That's also going to get you killed.
Yeah, I do not do that. But I did. I took this over my in-laws the other day. Social distancing 2020, and I took it over the in-laws and I put it up in the air, and it was like day 3 owning this thing. So it was the second time flying it. Put it up in the air, and I'm flying around this area, and I'm not really paying attention, and right into a tree, man. Right into a tree. And at the time, I didn't have the propeller guards on, so I didn't have this thing here to protect it from the tree. And
did you have to buy new props?
I bought the Fly More combo, which came with 2 additional sets of props. So I could a total of 12 props.
Cool.
Which was fantastic. But I ruined an entire. I still have them because I wanted to actually show them to you right now. So here's the one. Wow,
that got chowdered up.
Here's the other.
Did the drone come down like a sack of suds?
Sure did.
Wow, it survived the bounce.
It did. It landed in somebody's yard behind a fence. It was like my wife said to me that she just expected that to look, this thing's just missing the tip of the, just to give you an idea of how big it's supposed to be.
Yikes.
And then again, how big it's supposed to be. These things got beat up. So
I got chowdered, man.
I don't know if I was recording when I did it. I kind of wish I was. Not gonna lie, I really wish I was, because I think that would be a great learning experience for literally everyone.
Here's what not to do.
Pretty much. So yeah, I did that, and my wife said she expected it to be like that Sandlot movie with the fence and the dog, and let me tell you, there was a big white fence and a big dog in that yard. So I had to go knock on the guy's door. I felt like a 12-year-old me all over again, man. I knocked on the door.
Did the owner yell?
Excuse me, mister, can I have my drone?
Did the owner yell the name of the dog? Steak Balls.
No, I mean he was like my age, and I could tell he wasn't mad. He was just disappointed. How is a grown ass man doing this right now? What else is there to do? I mean,
well, we're on the Rona. We're bored. One of these days, I will buy such a critter. Just not today. My wife puts a spending limit.
$7.99 for this. I'm sorry, $6.99 for this with the Fly More combo from Best Buy. And
the thing is, I can't do anything halfway, man. I would have to buy the Pro 4, it's just.
So, okay.
Okay,
and I feel you there. So let me open up this. And this. So just to give you an idea of how this looks, like here is a picture. I didn't do any like post-production on this image. This is straight from the drone. And yes, it's snowing in April in Ohio. But it's okay. We just mowed the lawn the day before it snowed. We had to get that done.
Of course.
So that's
it's 40 something outside, and my neighbor was just mowing.
Yeah, and then here's another, I think, great shot that this thing took, and this one I think is actually my favorite. This picture here of my son.
I see 2 cars and people in a garage. I don't see your son. There we go. Yeah, I saw that one. Him holding his hands like that, something like that.
Let's try this again. You see it?
Steve Taylor's started screen sharing. There we go. Yeah, that's a good shot, man.
That is my favorite. And I was just screwing around with the drone, and like the quality of this thing, even when I zoom way in like this, like here it finally starts getting grainy. But like even at here, it's still a pretty crisp shot. So, I mean, and this is a Mavic Air. So I'm pretty impressed by what this thing can do. And then I also was able to take this video of me just kind of screwing around. And I did this video, I can't remember if this is 60 frames a second or 120, but you can tell it's in slow-mo with how slow that snow's moving, and obviously how slow my son's getting on his bike. Obviously,
I was gonna say I'm like chunka.
And for such a grim day outside, like the colors are still pretty vivid, for, all things considered.
Well, John Dyes brought his drone with him when you guys came over to my house, and he shot a video on a day that it was kind of snowing and whatnot. And I think it was the same drone. Might have been the predecessor to this one. I don't know.
He's got the Mavic Pro.
Okay.
But, yeah, mine's able to shoot 2K or 2.7K. Mine doesn't do 4K. So whatever. Or maybe it does, and I don't remember.
But he did. He pulled a nice video out. Like me, I'd have to go buy a Phantom 4 Pro V2 because I just don't know how to do anything halfway. When I got my ham radio license, there's another hobby. Mm-hmm. Probably don't know about that one, do you? Now you do.
Know about that one. So what's your ham radio code name?
Kilo Delta 9 or Oscar Lima November. KD9 OLN. See?
All right.
I started with a cheap radio, and I mean cheap. Nobody loves that radio. Everybody hates that radio, even though that radio actually works really well. It doesn't meet FCC transmission compliance. Who cares, right? Actually, we do, right? We, the amateurs of the world do. So once I got my license, I wanted to buy something good. And I went and looked at a bunch. I went, who, what?
Isn't that a beautiful landing?
I don't know. All I'm seeing is chunka.
Really?
Yeah. You got to remember, Zoom is toning things down. They're getting hit pretty hard right now with bandwidth.
Here, let me optimize for video share. Is it any better?
Oh, it's way better. It's actually flowing. I mean, the quality is down to like 380, but it's at least flowing. So there's a store that specializes in ham radio gear called Ham Radio Outlet. I ended up in one in Arizona. And I spent probably an hour and a half, 2 hours in there just piddling around with different radios. And I ended up buying, of course, not the most expensive handheld, but damn if it wasn't second most expensive. So yeah, I'm not gonna go through the evolution of buying the $30 radio and then buying the $80 radio and then buying the $150 radio and then buying the $200 radio, and then buying the $300 radio and then buying the $500 radio. I just went straight to the $500 and saved myself all the other money in between.
That's fair.
Right? I don't like when I buy tools, I buy the best tool I can buy, even if it's way more than what I need, because I don't ever want to have to buy it again.
So answer this for me. What do you actually do with a ham radio?
You pretend you're 6 again and you play walkie-talkies.
When's the last time you used it?
Last night.
Okay. So this is still a thing you do.
Oh yeah. I mean, look. First of all, the ostensible reason I got it is my wife and I hike a lot. We also hike a lot alone. And I was hoping to convince my wife to get her license so that when she goes out alone and, big remote places, she has at least a way of communicating with someone, hopefully maybe communicating with someone, where a cell phone won't. You're not going to get cell phone reception at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. You're not.
Why not?
I don't know. The cell phone companies just don't want to put towers in the bottom of a canyon.
That's fair.
Don't ask me why. Just, they're mean bastards about that. And, the chances of someone hearing you on a ham radio at the bottom of the Grand Canyon are also slim. Well, they're better than zero. And with a cell phone, it's absolutely zero, right? So I went down that road. She's not doing it. I want her to, but she's not doing it. But it's nice. At the very least, I have one. So when I'm out somewhere and there's zero chance of a cell phone catching a signal, if something happens to me, I can at least take it out of my pack and try, right? I'm not going to die for lack of trying.
That's fair. That's fair.
So that's really the reason I started going down this road. The rest of it is really playing walkie-talkie. Pretend you're 6 again, man.
What a nerd.
Yeah, absolutely. We're nerds. The group that I was talking to last night is a group that gets together every Wednesday night to practice managing a large volume of air traffic and so on, air radio traffic, if you will, in the event of an emergency. It's called AERES, Amateur Radio Emergencies System or something like that. Basically, if there's an emergency declared in my county, the members of ARES are able to relay information in the event of we lost power, we lost cell phone towers, whatever. When Hurricane Maria happened in Puerto Rico, the only reliable way of getting information to and fro for the better part of 2 months was not cell phones. Cell phone towers were down, man. The hurricane just lopped them off. And if it didn't lop them off, it definitely took their power source out. Mm-hmm. Where a handheld radio or a small vehicle-based radio you can recharge and get in your car and, hey, I'm Joe Blow, I'm here, I need this, I can help, I need that, I can help, with this, I can help with that, and so on and so forth. So that was another another reason that I said, you know what, it's time. But really, we're getting together and playing walkie-talkie, man.
That's so funny. What a bunch of nerds. I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, man, get your ham radio license. Maybe we can talk to each other instead of using Zoom. We can use some very staticky, HF band and see if we can throw it that far.
So how far does ham radio actually transmit?
It'll go around the world, depending on
Really?
which frequency you're on, right? Yeah, you can definitely hit around the world. You can do more than around the world. It's called backshot. Backshooting is if let's say that you are east of me. Mm-hmm. If I take a directional antenna and aim it at you, I'm definitely going to get you on an HF band, right? Well, not definitely, but very likely going to get you on an HF. There are people that do the opposite. They'll aim their antennas away from each other, directly away from each other, and try to hit each other by going around the world. Now, for that to happen, you have to have the weather just right. The weather just right. The solar flares have to be just right. The stars have to align just right. But it happens. It happens a lot more often than you might think. On a handheld, you're going to go maybe 15, 20 miles. All of this, especially in a handheld, you're talking about 2 meters and 70 centimeters. It's all line of sight. If you cannot see it, you're not going to be able to talk to it. Okay?
Gotcha. So on a handheld, on a handheld, if you're out in the middle of the woods somewhere, people aren't going to be able to hear you.
Yeah, because the woods attenuate the signal to some degree, right? Because they absorb the energy. Right. But you can be 5 miles away and I can't see you, but the air, the antennas can see each other.
Gotcha.
Okay. The longest, the UHF, yes, it was a UHF or VHF. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was a UHF. Contact recorded was from somewhere in the Southern Caribbean, hitting somewhere just west of Africa. Some island just west of Africa. It's like 400 miles, which is a ridiculous distance to go on a UHF band.
Okay.
But on HF, yeah, you can go around the world. Again, things have to be right. You can't just, but if you go to the ARRL, I think the ARRL has a map. Let's see, do they have a map? They may have a map here somewhere.
Here, I'll share my screen so people can see what we're talking about here. So here's the ARRL.
If they don't, somebody has a map out there with propagation conditions that tell you how the weather's lining up and so on and so forth for signal to propagate across the planet.
So Carlos, let me tell you, man, even their marketing pictures don't make this look like a very sexy hobby.
There's nothing sexy about amateur radio. If you think you're gonna slay the ladies by saying, "Hey, I'm an amateur radio operator," again, let me tell you, you're not.
All right, so
but you're a married man, so you don't have to worry about that. And I'm a married man; I don't have to worry about that. You know what? My wife can think I'm a nerd. I don't care. She's my wife. We've been married for a long, long, long time now. A lot longer than she wants it to be by now.
All right. So one of the other things that I know, I don't know if you dabble or if it's a serious thing for you, is you do a lot with Raspberry Pis.
Yeah, I play around with Pis. It's actually part of the IT business. Hang on.
I think he's going to go get a Pi and show it to us, maybe.
Here we go. A couple of different. So this is an offshoot made by Asus, I believe. Yeah. It's not as good. Not anymore. It used to be better than the Pi, but anymore it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. It'll do 4K though, where the Pi won't do 4K. It's amazing that you can, huh?
Do you need 4K?
Well, if I'm using it as a remote desktop agent, why not? Right? A lot of what we do with Pis for our clients is these things are set up with a wired network connection, keyboard, mouse, and all they do is they're an RDP client to a terminal server. So, the new Pis, the Pi 4, will do dual 4K screens. I think it's dual 4K.
I thought you just said the Pi won't do 4K.
The Pi 3, the Pi 4 will do 4K, but I know it does dual screens. The Pi 3 only does single HDMI out.
Okay.
And it definitely tops out at like 1080 or something like that. It's not even close.
No more Weiss terminals for you? Is that what I'm hearing?
I haven't done a Weiss terminal in forever because Weiss terminals are the bane of my existence. They're a pain in the butt. They never work right. You have to, do an incantation to get them to update. Yeah, no. Why spend $300 on a Weiss terminal when you can spend, call it $70 because you're going to get fancy and get a nice case and
right.
A distinct power supply or whatnot. And we're actually doing away with power supplies. I don't have one handy right now, but the Pi now can do PoE with an add-on. So I already have PoE switches to the client sites. Why? I'd be an idiot not to make use of that PoE.
I agree completely.
Right?
You would be an idiot.
So this is an Asus Tinker board. But, 3 years ago when I got this, the Pi couldn't do 4K. And this one could, and it does. It is 99% compatible with the Pi. It's not exactly 100%. You have to play around with it to get this to work the same as a Pi. But if you need that extra resolution, at the time, this was the ticket. And then this is a Pi 3. Let me see. I don't care. So this one's set up for tracking airplanes. Here, let's do this. Let me open up a new tab and share this. I know you got to probably getting close to your limit.
No, we're good.
Let's see. Let's go to okay. And let me share my screen. And we're going to go to Dear Zoom, make this easier, please.
It's the little green box in the bottom.
Well, yeah, I know how to share. The problem is I'm looking for the specific window I want to share. There we go. This is a plane tracker I'm building for a drop zone. This is going to end up in San Diego, I believe. Yeah, this is going to end up in San Diego. And with a Raspberry Pi, an RTL SDR, hang on. In this case, I'm using one of these, not the RTL SDR branded, but this is by New Elec.
Now, since you're sharing your screen, your video is really tiny, so I'll ask you to show that again once you're done.
All right, no big deal. So with a Raspberry Pi, an RTL SDR, in this case made by New Elec, and some software, we can track every airplane that's flying above us that is within reach of us radio-wise. Put an antenna, obviously attached to the RTL SDR, and here we go. These are the planes that are flying near my house at this point in time. The range rings tells us how far we are, and we have this dandy, bit of information here.
I see you are 50 nanometers away.
nautical miles.
I know.
Nanometers would be in lowercase n, lowercase m. Units of measure matter. But here are the identification of the airplane, the registration, and the type of airplane. This is a Cessna 152. The squawk is what air traffic control is telling it to put in its beacon, 1200. Its altitude is going down right now. As you can see, it had the down arrow. It was saying it was lowering altitude. This one is lowering altitude as well from 32.7 to 6.5, so on and so forth, right?
So a couple of those look like they might be landing.
Well, nobody's landing right now. These are like the lowest guy or gal is at 2,400 feet. So that person may be getting set up to land somewhere, but they're still ways away from landing.
Well, I guess when I see 2,000, I guess my assumption is that, the other ones that are at like 40,000, like I didn't even realize like they're up that high. So when they're at 2,000, I figure, they must be like descending.
Not necessarily. It just depends on the type of airplane, right? A Cessna 152 will cruise at 2.5 all day. Heck, it'll cruise at 1,000 feet all day if you let them.
I guess I just assumed all planes would be at like the same height too.
Oh, no. So you have different air corridors for different destinations, right? So east to west, you fly at a certain offset. One say they're evens, and west to east, you fly odds, and north to south. And I'm not a pilot. I'm not that kind of a pilot, so don't ask me because I don't know. I just know that they're one way or another, right? So let's say this guy is flying west. This is Southwest Airlines flight 1356, SWA 1356. Its tail number is N281WN. It's a Boeing 737. And it's at 38,000 feet. So east to west must be the evens, right? So let's look at this guy. North to south must be the evens or the odds because he's awful close to 34,000. So I don't know. Let's go Delta Airlines flying south is on the evens. So let's call north to south is also going to be evens. So if that plane was heading north, it'd be at 39 or at 37. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Right? And they're not always going to be at 39 or 37, but their air traffic control is going to handle all that, the who belongs at what altitude.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, there could be 5 planes all at the same latitude, longitude, but because they're flying at different altitudes, that's okay.
Exactly. As long, I want to say that the separation is 1,000 feet.
And there's plenty of thousands of feet available.
I wouldn't say plenty, but enough.
Well, there's enough that there could be 30 planes stacked on top of each other, it looks like.
Car 1090. Let's go there. These folks are one of a handful of places where you can track airplanes. So let's
is
go
this
to
one that you made?
Oh heavens, no, man! This is I feed my data to these people. So here we go. We're looking at O'Hare International.
Okay.
In Chicago.
That's Chicago. Yep.
And you see these planes are all lined up. They're all coming into land at O'Hare, and these guys are on the ground.
But you see the cool, corridor, man.
Right? And you see this guy is leaving. He's departing, and he's hooking to his left.
Yeah.
This guy is also hooked. He just left. He's hooking to his left. Or maybe he's getting set up to land. He's on descent 6-7. So the thing is, this is one of a handful of websites that do this. Flight Aware is another one. Let's see. Browse by airport. Let's go to what is the airport code for Columbus?
I don't know, but I was going to say I could give you one over by me.
Sure. What is it?
Why don't you look up CLE? Good old Cleveland.
So here's Cleveland.
Is that a helicopter?
Yes, that's a helicopter.
Huh.
Oh, of course, I popped it into a separate window. But, here are the flights near CLE right now.
Now, would you say that this is a normal amount of planes? Or
no,
because of the COVID thing, there would be a lot more?
We're down to less than a third of the air traffic that we normally would have.
Wow.
I don't have it handy, but I let me go back to here. So I don't have it handy, but maybe I do have it handy. I have some information handy. Here's another. This is my actual home station. So this is a look at today, right? And we're looking on, averaging 12 flights or 12 airplanes overhead at any given moment right now, over the last 24 hours. Let's go to monthly, and we can see a month ago, average was 16, so that higher. But we were already in the midst of the COVID-19 lockout, right?
Correct.
So you can see the curve of aircraft coming down, right? You see that there's a trend downward.
And I bet the yearly would be even more
exactly drastic. And that's where I was going to go with this. You can see where
wow.
in February, January here's a pretty normal, January, December, and then you see the slope goes down pretty fast.
Yeah, and I'm actually on the smaller green one where it says aircraft seen. I'm looking down there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but
it's a marked difference, right? It's a drastic difference.
And obviously there's a period in maybe November, where maybe you had something offline.
Exactly. My tracker was offline. I didn't have time to go fix it, so it stayed offline.
Yeah. So, I mean, I knew that there were less flights. I didn't realize it was this few of flights.
It is a massive difference. I have a couple of friends that are pilots for airlines, and one of them just switched airlines. Like he quit flying for Airline X in January because he took a job with Airline Y in January, and his training didn't start until March, and his training basically is like, well, you're going to go through training, but that's it. As soon as you're done with training, we're going to furlough you.
Wow.
They did. So he has 90 days to get 100 hours in an Airbus 320, which is not going to happen.
So why did they bother putting him through training?
Because in the event that we go back to normal sometime soon, they're going to need pilots.
Got it.
Right? The airline pilot scene has been needing new pilots, massively needing new pilots for the last few years. A lot of pilots that are in the system now are getting ready to retire. They're about to hit that age.
And my understanding is, there are some pilots that have been doing this for a while that are doing really well for themselves.
Oh yeah.
And then there's the newer pilots that, I mean, it's no different than being a manager at McDonald's where
precisely. Flight school, especially if you're going to go through the process of getting commercial rated and so on and so forth, you're looking at 150 grand.
That's a lot of money, man. Like you could
so
be
for
a
the first 10
years for that kind of money.
For the first 10 years you're a pilot, you're going to be flying as a co-pilot. You're not even going to be a captain. So you're going to be at the bottom of the pay scale. and you have this massive amount of debt over your head that you have to chunk away at, right? And then, so hopefully at some point in time in there, you get promoted to captain, you start making a little bit more scratch, and you're able to pay off some more. But the first 10 years of a pilot's commercial life are miserable.
That sounds absolutely miserable, man. Like, I mean, I know that's the word you just used, but.
So here's that software-defined radio. That's what an SDR is. This was made by New Elec.
What's the connector you're holding on to?
So the device itself comes with this kind of connector. It's called an SMA connector.
Looks like a coax cable.
It is a coax cable. That's how you feed an antenna into it. But I put an adapter in it because, being the radio nerd that I am, I have everything in all of my antennas run on BNC. You remember the old school BNC networks?
Oh my goodness!
You're too young to know what BNC networks are. Twinix, son.
I learned about those in high school.
I learned about those in elementary school. I was told that stuff was ancient back then. But all of my antennas are set up with BNC so that I can use any antenna on anything, as long as obviously it matches, right? In this case, I was using this to tune into 2 meters amateur bands, and I had it connected to one of my 2-meter antennas. So I have the BNC connector on. But this is a software-defined radio. This one is only good for receiving. It won't let you transmit. And you can tune into just about any band you want with it. Think about that.
So are you saying I can tune into a band that might be used by a local corporation that they're using like wireless microphones?
Oh, absolutely. If the wireless microphone is analog, it'll definitely be picked up by this if you know the frequency. I mean, this has boundaries, right? I want to say, I don't remember the exact, but call it from, I don't know, 30 hertz to 3,000 megahertz. Excuse me. So it's going to cover the majority of the spectrum that you want. Mm-hmm. So if you're running a wireless microphone that is analog, that falls within the frequency range that this can pick up, you can definitely pick it up. If it's the digital, you can still pick up the digital signal, but it's going to sound like a modem, right? However, you can take a modem, plug in for the software-defined radio, and modulate, demodulate, so you can demodulate the signal and turn it into an analog sound if you have the right plugin.
That is really cool, man. So I know that most like Shure, Sennheiser, Audio-Technica, like those types of microphones, I mean, they used to do a lot of like 600 megahertz, but that frequency got sold off to whoever. So now they're in the 400, 500 area.
So you can, now mind you,
can pick those up. You still have to be in range of them. It's not like those things transmit for miles.
Exactly. You have to be inside of range of them, number one. Number two, you have to have an antenna tuned for that. You think, all antennas are made the same. No, they're not.
It's just a big metal stick, man.
Yep, but the metal stick has to be the right length to pick up the signal. Right?
Well, the longer it is, the more signals it can pick up, right?
Not necessarily.
You just get one that's you just get a 20-foot metal stick, and it'll pick up all the signals.
It'll pick all the signals up poorly. It'll only pick up the signals for 20 feet properly, right? So you have an antenna like this one that's telescoping, whatever you. English is my second language. It is for reals. And you extend it to the length needed for the frequency that you want to pick up, right? So you grab you do the math and you figure out that you need a 70 centimeter antenna. I'm using 70 centimeters because 70 millimeter, I should say, 71 millimeter, I think it is for 1090. I just built one not so long ago,
and
so I should
your
have that
airplane
memorized.
tracker, right?
Huh?
1090, that's your airplanes.
And of course, I'm using the wrong ruler because this one is in inches, not in centimeters. Let me find the centimeters scale. Here we go. So let's call it 70 centimeter. This antenna is way too long already. This antenna would not work well for it. It would work, but it wouldn't work well because it's longer than my ideal wavelength. My ideal wavelength in this antenna is going to be a quarter wave. But
you can just get like some scissors and cut some of that off, right?
Well, not scissors, but metal cutters, diagonal cutters. I've done that before. I've made antennas out of wire, where you take a connector and you put a piece of wire in it, you cut it to the right length, and then you make ground planes for it, and it works. It's really simple to make an antenna if you know the length of the wavelength that you need. Anyhow,
that's really awesome, man. So Carlos, I really appreciate you hopping on here with me today. There are so many other things I want to talk to you about. Just, for obvious reasons. We didn't really get to talk much about the MSP stuff because squirrel. Will you come back another time and we can do this again?
Sure.
I'd love that.
On the MSP side, the best advice I can give you or anybody else in this world is automate your stuff.
Yes.
Use your tools, automate the hell out of it. If you have to do it more than once, automate it because it's time you're going to save.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If anyone here is interested in checking out a peer group for your MSP, go check out RocketMSP.io. We have weekly and monthly peer group options available. I'll see you all at the next one. Take care, guys.